the hell is happening in Arizona? Well, one of the things that is in the process of happening is Arizona soon will be what Arizona was supposed to be from the beginning of history, a desert. It's going to become a desert again. Phoenix, it's going to disappear. Thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of years from now, when some alien spaceship lands and the explorers get out to find if there is or ever was life on this little dry planet, they're going to discover, look here, looks like a city. But in the meantime, what's happening in Arizona? Well, the next thing, there's been so much going on out there. They have banned talking about uncomfortable things in the classroom, according to the Washington Post. Here's the story. Earlier this month, the Justice Department launched what is called a pattern or practice civil rights investigation into the police force in Phoenix. And that investigation will include looking into whether police officers routinely discriminate against some of the people they've sworn to serve. Hold your laughter. Including people with disabilities, individuals going through homelessness, and people who exercise what the Washington Post calls, quote, conduct protected by the First Amendment, end quote. Conduct protected by the First Amendment. That means speechifying and stuff like that, right? Like Black Lives Matter protesters from last summer come to mind about that, right? In May of this year, hundreds of those protesters filed a class action lawsuit against the city alleging police mistreatment. Yes, indeed. Now, Fernanda Santos, who wrote this piece as an opinion column, she says it's virtually impossible these days to have meaningful conversations about ethnicity, race, and inequity without talking about the hierarchies involved. And with that in mind, the Justice Department investigation would make a rich topic of a discussion for at least some of the 1 million students returning to public schools in Arizona this month. Because after all, this is a state where retaliation and discrimination by the white majority are painfully familiar to the same communities of color that are also driving the growth, the population growth in that state. But anyway, excuse me, Ms. Santos goes on to write about how talking about uncomfortable things in the classroom is now illegal in Arizona. Because last month, this Christian fascist monster who is the governor, this white puke named Doug Ducey, signed a law banning public school employees from teaching lessons that present, quote, any form of blame or judgment on the basis of race, ethnicity, or sex, end quote. Oh, that's so cute, the way they worded it, right? Why didn't they just say that bans any form of blame or judgment on the basis of white people? Now, this measure, of course, was written by and praised and sucked around by these white Christian fascist legislators, who are, in fact, part of a soon-to-be-gone white majority in Arizona. And the power that these white demons hold, the political power in Arizona, is now threatened by political mobilization and by demographics. Ms. Santos writes that Ducey is one of the last 8 governors who have totally distorted the meaning of critical race theory, which is the study of how race and racism framed U.S. history and shaped our institutions. That is a fact. It is a given. It is part and parcel of the DNA of the United States of America. Can we fix it? Sure we could. We could have fixed it at the very beginning, when these glorious documents organizing the United States were first put together, but we chose not to. Okay. But they still can be corrected. In signing this law in Arizona, this putrid governor, this white lump of whatever, declared that he was not going, quote, to waste public dollars on lessons that might imply the superiority of any race and hinder free speech, end quote. But what this dumb bastard did instead may have undermined the future of the state of Arizona itself. Ms. Santos puts it this way: by restricting debate, he thwarted the ability of students and teachers to collectively sort through the perspectives that make up their individual understanding of the same facts they observe and to appropriately contextualize them. If children can no longer debate the impact of past and current events in their lives and communities, what kind of Arizona can we expect them to build when it is their turn to run the state? Well, I guess you or I or just about anybody could answer Ms. Santos. We know what the hope is from these white demons of what we can expect the next generation to build when it's their turn to run the state. A Christian fascist empire that puts women back in their place, the little shithole of subservience that they belong in, ask the book of Genesis, and what to do with all the coloreds. And Christian fascism explains very quickly, concisely, and precisely what to do with all the coloreds and the Jews. Let's not forget them. Oh, and the Muslims. And Ms. Santos points something out that white people often forget, that equity feels like oppression to the privileged. You know, if you're a privileged white person, I am. I don't have shit, but I have white skin. That makes me privileged. But if you're a privileged white person and all of a sudden you're told, wait a second, that person has the right to sit in the same row in the theater as you. That person has the same right to get the same sort of education as you. That person has the same right to sit anywhere on the goddamn bus as you. That person has a right to health care the same as you. See, when that shit starts to happen, the privileged white folk go, wait, you're oppressing me. Now, when people of color talk about equity, Ms. Santos writes, quote, it feels that we're saying we're going to take from your child and your community and give to mine, when it's not that at all, end quote. Now, that statement was made by Stephanie Pera, who's a governing board member of Phoenix Union High School District, one of the largest and most diverse in Arizona. She's also the executive director of the nonprofit Arizona for Latino Leaders in Education. Okay. Ms. Pera added, quote, we want to give opportunities to those who have been denied the same opportunities that others have had, others being white people. And as Ms. Santos points out, what gets lost when one voice, white voice, prevails over all the others, especially in history. What gets lost is our ability to get to know all of those who make up the state or the city or the neighborhood or the country. It's like white people don't want to know. And if we don't know who they are, how do we help maximize their potential? Just like ours was maximized, just by the structure of this country. You know, I said in the book that I wrote, that I wish you'd buy, that white privilege. That's a term I never heard when I was a kid growing up. But when I think about it now and focus back on my childhood, and I think to myself, I had a lot of black friends, kids. We lived in an integrated neighborhood. And so many of my black friends, young kids like me, they lived in houses. There might have been rental houses. There might have been houses their parents were buying, but they lived in houses. I grew up in a fucking attic, an attic. And I used to think to myself when I was a little kid, why am I? I'm white. I'm supposed to be better than these Negroes. Why do I live in an attic and they live in a house? Well, there are a lot of answers to that question, and it took me years to get to the answers. Anyway, the possibilities of a diverse, in this case, Arizona, lie were confirmed by the 2020 census. And the census confirmed the inevitability of demographic changes happening in Arizona and throughout the United States. And the truth is, over the 10 years since the last census, this country has become significantly more diverse and mixed. And for the first time in history, the white population actually declined. Now, a lot of that was because of the shit white people have been doing to themselves. Alcoholism, drug addiction, cigarette smoking, suicide, gun violence. People of color don't have to do shit except just sit back and say, well, go ahead. Ms. Santos writes that a look at Phoenix Union School District gives a sense of what Arizona's tomorrow may look like. 96% of the students that the Phoenix Union School District enrolls are students of color. 82% are Latino, and 77% qualify for free or reduced price lunch. And back to Ms. Para, Stephanie Para, the governing board member of the Phoenix Union High School District, she said, quote, "If we don't create an educational system that believes in the students it has, that invests in them, and that values their cultures and communities, what will become of this state 10 or 20 years from now?" End quote. And you can only imagine the questions now that the kids who are in school in Arizona, what questions they might have about the Justice Department investigation into the Phoenix police force. Huh? And the personal stories those young people could share with each other. And their perceptions as to how the cops are doing their job and how the cops could do their job better. But oh no, there will be no discussion of that. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.